Hello, today we're going to be going over how to exploit the data stored in hidden fields um, in web applications using web forms and other such things. Um, Before we go through this, the standard disclaimers apply. First of all, this information and tutorial is not intended for any sort of illegal or unethical use. You should always either be exploiting your own applications that you are hosting or have written consent from the owner of the server and web application that you will be testing. That being said, hopefully this tutorial will help those of you who are security enthusiasts and web designers to better understand the potential dangers of this exploit and defend against it. So before we start, you'll need a few tools. First of all, you'll need the Firefox browser, and you'll need to download a plugin called Tamper Data. This is a great plugin that allows you to access the header information of a page that's being submitted and be able to grab and modify that information, an example of which we will show you here in just a moment. I've created here a simple web application that looks like a store. Basically, it lets you purchase a TV for a given price, and you can put in any sort of quantity you want here and click submit, and it will process your order and charge you the appropriate amount for the given number of TVs. So we will jump back into this and view the source here. Let me zoom in here for you. You'll notice here is our web form. And in this web form, you'll note that there's a couple hidden fields. One is a price, and the other is called description. The description here, you can see, just has a string describing the product. And more interestingly, we have here this field called price that stores and passes a price amount to the server. This is a very bad idea, as we'll show you here shortly. Many people assume that because a field is hidden from view, that the user can't get to it or change the information on it, and that is not so. We'll go ahead and close this to give you a better understanding of these values and how to modify it. We will open Tamper Data here and click Start Tamper, and then we can just go down here and click Submit. We'll say yes, we want to tamper with this, and it'll open up this pop-up here that reports on the left-hand side the usual header information that you'll see in any given page, things such as the browser you're using and so forth. And on the right-hand side here, we've got our post parameters. Specifically, there's our quantity that the user puts in, the description that we've included in it. There's the submit value passed by the submit button, and here is our price. So let's go ahead and change this here. We can just click on that and modify that, and with just a few keystrokes, we've given ourselves a very hefty discount. We'll go ahead and close this plugin now, and you'll see here that instead of the correct amount, we have only been charged $2.79 here. Now, as you can imagine, this is a fairly scary exploit that can exist, or vulnerability that can exist in your code. Mainly because it is so easy to change these values, as you just saw. In a few keystrokes, you've completely circumvented any sort of security they may have implemented on their web application. So it's very important to not use this method to post data that you do not want the user to be able to modify, and that goes for anything from retail and price information to stuff like emails and so forth. So we're going to protect against this by using a database instead. Now here we have a database version of the same site. You'll find if you go through this that it has exactly the same functionality, does the exact same thing as our previous example. But if we jump here to view the page source, you'll notice that our hidden price field is gone. In its place we have a value ID number for our product. We can go ahead and pass this because we're going to check it against our database after sanitizing it to identify whether it is indeed the correct product that we're supposed to be selling. And if it is indeed for sale, we will pull the price information from the server and charge it that way, rather than allowing the user to access that data. To further show that, we will go ahead and attempt the same exploit here with tamper data. We'll start it, submit just as before, and you'll notice here that in our post parameters we have the quantity as usual, there's the ID number and our submit button, but we can no longer change the price. So our transaction will go through correctly. Here is an example of the server script, the script that does the checkout information. Just a few quick things to point out. Our database information is actually stored in a file that is not accessible from accessible to the web server. That's always a good idea. It protects against the user being able to get a hold of that file somehow through your browser and view in plain text your username and password for your database. The other thing of interest here is that we're sanitizing our input. We're using the paralibrary's quote function, which puts quotes around our string and also escapes any quotation marks, single or double quotes in it to protect against SQL attacks, SQL injection, sorry. And we're then using also this HTML special characters function, which also escapes out any sort of script or HTML code to prevent cross-site scripting. This is a little overkill because we're not actually submitting information into the browser, we're merely checking information in the browser, or in the database, sorry. But it never hurts to sanitize your input. As you can see, that's this tutorial. By simply making those few changes and consulting something on the server side, such as a database that you've set up to be secured against the user, you can protect yourself against this type of attack.